Yes, indeed. We are back. We are back. I was going to say something else, but let me leave that
Mm-mm. Wrong talk show.
alone. Yes, indeed. Welcome back to Mad Poet Podcast. I'm Alex Murdoch, the Mad Poet. Hope everybody's doing well. We are here, Mr. Strings Theory himself. Welcome,
Thank you.
Strings. What's
Thank
going
you,
on?
sir. I'm good. How are you?
I'm living, man. I'm living.
And
You know, what can you say? I'm alive.
hmm.
I'm alive. And still having fun with it, so I can't complain, man. Can't complain. Just trying to kick these narratives as we do.
Yes.
I know. You must have been thinking, oh dear, on a mad one. Yes, we are.
Mm.
Yeah, intriguing this one, and
The statement itself is true.
yeah, man, basic instincts. But before that, let me do some house cleaning. I don't do it enough, but man, this is the book that just came out, and I just
Mm.
want to share with people. Again, it's the most recent publishing from the man poet himself. As certain people say they put boots to the ground. Well, got to show growth, right? So this book, and also endorsed. I have to give a shout out to Paula Lehman Ewan, journalist that endorsed me for this book, and man, I appreciate her giving me her thoughts on my work. And funny enough, this was a last minute thing as well, but gave me permission to share her thoughts on my book. So shout out to her. And yeah, so I just wanted to kind of get that out of the way to share with people, you know. But yes, available right now on all markets on Amazon. So please go and get yourself a copy.
Go get that, people. And yeah,
Um,
bro, you need to do that more, man.
yeah, yeah, I
It's
do.
not easy, I know, but yeah. Um,
I do. But sometimes it gets you. All right, Streak, let's get into it.
please. Piece of the day.
Piece of the day. Piece of the day. I'll start with that. And then I don't necessarily want to stay too much on what we've been covering with the article, but there is something that inspired me to go this route that we're about to take.
Cool.
But yes, piece of the day. Let me let me start there. It says, "Let the world take me away until there's nothing left. Shackled thoughts, not even a whiff of a scent, seldom hanging dry in the wind. That's where the pains take, as though sea breeze caught my scent. Now I'm withering away until time commenced to let my pain drain, carving until the morning. These moments live in my head. These moments live in mine like the skin that exfoliates, although can never relate to the skin lightning. Too close to internal morbid sin that would excruciate the God within." Yes, so that was a quote today. They have a tongue twister. Almost had me lost.
Ha.
um, yes. And now for the dismount for the other quote.
Such an athlete,
Here we,
man.
here we go. Oh, man. Good thing I remember the page I left it. Bloody thing just flipped on me. It says the development of science has directed his interest beyond unconscious instinct dominated by sexuality and the power drive or self-assertion in brackets, corresponding to the twin moral concepts of Saint Augustine. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this term. Is concupiscencia or concupiscencia and superbia. Superbia is more power.
Okay.
It basically elaborates here. He says the clash between two fundamental instincts, which alludes to the preservation of the species and self-preservation, is the source of numerous conflict. That was in brackets. So he's saying his instinct is a source of numerous problems. They are therefore the chief object of moral judgment, whose purpose is to prevent these instinctual collisions as far as possible.
Mm.
How's the quote for today? So from what obviously I have context as well. You know, these one of the instincts. Well, let's go with this word first. Concupiscencia. I just share the definition with you so you get a bit more understanding
Yeah, let
of
me get
why
that.
it's so relevant. So, strong sexual desire, lust. He also speaks about the instinct um, of power, and obviously that's linked with a lot of different things. But I really wanted to. I was curious about that and the link to sex as well.
Mm.
So that's the reason why I'm somewhat just exploring this. And obviously there's you could imagine, as he says, clash. So collision of the two, power and sex, in which thereby instigates or initiates the somewhat chaotic drive of concup
Yeah, brother. Mm.
concupiscence is the word.
Appreciate you for trying, cause it was not me.
Yeah, if you get it wrong, it can trip you up. But it's concupiscence.
Mm.
There's a little pause in the middle. Concupiscence, but which is and ultimately, I want to focus on the uh, the combination of power and sex. Now, when I thought about this, right, when I was thinking about this, the first thing that came to my mind was Diddy.
Ah, makes complete sense though.
Because that was one of the ultimate examples But I'll just tweak a little bit further into concupiscence. It's the somewhat, it's the drive to somewhat, um, it makes you prone. It's the drive for power so much to the degree that it makes you prone to your basic instincts or your intangibles that um, perhaps inhibitions, in a sense where you heard of even you think about the seven deadly sins, these things that comes into play because, and it's all around, it's all to do with power. So the other thing that was mentioned was, of course, a lot of things is to do with power, including a lot of times sex.
Mm.
Um, if you think about Diddy, which is the reason why I brought him up, it's a prime example. You know, he seems to be a deviant, you could say, sex driven, wild, and he not only obviously not the norm as we would say, he's really out there, like really out there to the point where he's almost manic with some of his antics and things that carries on. But I have to say, if you're gonna be objective about this, it can't just be Diddy. If you really think about it, I think it's both of them,
Who?
Diddy and Cassie.
Oh, right. Yes.
I think she's just as destructive prone pertaining to sex and power as Diddy. Um, and if you think about it, it's sort of like the dynamic is obviously different in terms because they're different sex, and power applies to females somewhat different, a bit more nuanced, but different compared to males. But overall, the ideals are quite similar in terms of um, the power play and the control. You know, so yeah, I am intrigued. I am intrigued. Um, but yeah, I'll let you share some thoughts on it, Strings.
Um. Yeah. There was. mm, Put that on snooze. Yeah. The sex cells,
Okay, you want to start like that?
and because it sells so well, um, we they say that it's the strongest force, one of the strongest forces in existence, and the biggest difference between man and nature is that um, nature respects it largely to a degree, and us, we are we've been given the freedom to express it to some degree, but a very large form of indoctrination has led us to um, exploit it in ways that is very harmful,
Mm,
i.e., the heavy suggestion in media, in lack of training or understanding, um, to really understand how deep and some would say sacred it is. Um, because I've read texts that heavily suggest that sexual energy is also creative energy.
absolutely.
Same source, and the arousal is the same. It just works differently in the mind, the body, and other parts that feel that sense of stimulation. Um,
mm,
and the power comes when, like I said um, in our last class, in our last video, um, was that the whole process of taking a thought and bringing it into this reality is a high in itself.
mm,
And if you are given the platform for that to be executed to the highest level of execution, artistry, yeah, you can see why people who fall from grace or have had their time say, no, this isn't over. I have more to give. I want to
mm,
still be in the spotlight. That is, yes. I don't know which sin it is tied to. I know there's more, but it's only the seven that have been made popular. So I think that link um, is why um, we are in the predicaments that we're in, and not just Diddy. Um, he's a famous example of his exploits, but I'm sure if you asked a friend of a friend or read online or in a chat
yeah,
room, people are doing the most heinous things in order to seek
yeah,
pleasure. It's just the misdirection leads you to or leads them to say this is the quickest way to have an outlet for that. Whereas if you were to master that in yourself to achieve um, other things,
mm,
it would help you get through the struggle and the other stages of creation, i.e., if one is in a bad place in life, a
yeah,
man, um, naturally an instinct would come over to say, let's control some of this these urges to pour it into something more constructive. And when he gets the
yes,
result, he will then celebrate in other means, whether it be with a partner or um, some form of activity, and to celebrate the level of discipline applied to do that. It's easier done in extreme cases when one is down bad or in out of employment, or they see that my life needs to change due to my habits. But yeah, it's an interesting place because it involves a lot of the human anatomy that's tied to the energy, which we're still learning and discovering how that all works. But
yeah,
one thing is clear: when it's gone far left, I can't help but see with very clear evidence that there are strong influences that are very complicated, because the first thing someone will say on the outside looking in is, how is how are your actions being influenced to go that far for you to experience or want to experience such certain things? And I think mental health is just a nice little cloak, but it does no justice to explain why people are doing things at that level to seek such highs. It's very abnormal for any human being. Um, but I think there was a word in a quote, because while you was talking, I was thinking about, I think halfway through there was a line he said about the clash, and even the first statement in itself,
yeah.
the signs are becoming too I can't remember it word for word, but
I could bring it back for you.
please.
Well, you're talking about the clash between between these two fundamental instincts is a source of numerous conflict. Oh, you want to go further up to the beginning?
uh I think further down after that, if you will, please.
He
uh,
says, they are therefore the chief object of moral judgment,
yes.
whose purpose it is to prevent these instinctual collisions as far as possible.
Yeah, that one. That caught me. Um,
Mm.
that I want to unpack.
Okay, well, let's piggyback off what you just said
Mm,
because you brought up the topic, well, that aspect of it. Sex being as powerful as it is, and as you can imagine, speaking of what you're talking about, there's a lot of drugs out there, and that's perhaps to a certain degree alludes to why there's so many drug addicts because there is a lot of people out there that are still trying to chase the fix that is sex, or in its most potent form, love. As you can imagine, love is the most powerful thing because that's the only thing that somewhat induces somebody to, well, take them out of the state of self preservation. So, in essence, you love somebody, you prioritize somebody over yourself, or you care for somebody to the point of risking your own being, which is asinine when you think about it. But that's the essence of love: is selflessness, is craziness, you know, intertwined somewhat.
mm,
But when you think about that, it also explains. I mean, one of the most common story we hear about, especially in history, is Helen of Troy. They started. I mean, they started a war over her.
mm.
That was supposed to be over love, and the whole empire was destroyed because they that because of that clash alone. There was distraction, there was barbarism, but of the highest of the highest, including the Trojan horse, etc., etc., which was the
Great
beginning of
stuff.
the end. It's the beginning of the end. Legends were made, but legends were also destroyed on that day. Um, so yes, these are some of the things that leads to what we essentially see as power, and sex colliding and somewhat destroying everything in its path. It's um, it's a force like no other because it's so deeply ingrained in the human psyche, and I think it's one of these things that we underestimate at the same time to a high degree that it shouldn't be. You have to feel strength.
Um, hmm, yeah, that I can't help think about the movie. um, but at the same time, um, I like to bring it down to the individual as well. Most
Hmm.
men can't have access to armies, but they have
True.
been cheated on. They have felt disrespected. Both genders, to be fair.
Mm.
So I will always support the notion that if one had access to that kind of power, it'd be a lot more easier for them to give into the thoughts and urges to say, listen, just like how someone would act in their current circumstances now as an individual. They'll say, you know what, don't mess with me or you'll see. I'm sure we've heard that. Then you see someone running down the street threatening to say, either I'll do this, inform some for harm of myself, or
Mm.
it's the same thing. Um, it's just always different roles that we play in this life, and what you have access to will help magnify the level of self control. But it's this word. I wonder what they are the chief of moral judgment. Are they talking about the subconscious controlling the instincts or these two forces
They talk about the two forces.
between sex and power?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when they collide, that's when you lose all moral.
So the one
So
the,
by keeping them together, you keep your faculties.
right. Um. So it has what's responsible for keeping those two things in check? Okay. Yeah.
I can give
Yeah.
you more context if you want.
Please. I'm not confused. It's just very um.
No, it's quite deep, and obviously,
Yeah. Mm.
no, I just mean because obviously, I have a whole text in front of me, so I can elaborate more because he goes further into it. I just give a bit more to another full stop.
Yeah, that'll be enough.
It says, as I explained above, instinct has two main aspects. On the one hand, that of dynamism, drive or drift,
Mm.
and on the other, specific meaning and intention. It is highly probable that all man's psychic functions have an instinctual foundation, as is obvious the case with animals. It is easy to see that in animals instinct functions as the spiritus rector of all their behavior. And he has this thing where like I think he might be French because he keeps throwing French lines in there, hence the spiritus rector sort of thing,
Okay.
which is more like a French term he uses. But there's little quotes here and there
Right.
of little French innuendos all over the text.
I always say that the English language has it doesn't have any
Limitation.
quotables. I mean,
Mm,
it's so there's so many French terms and expressions in the English language.
yeah,
Eh, I get it. But yeah, thanks for elaborating, and I'm glad I'm on the same page and why I tend to always refer the comparison to man and nature, i.e., animals. Um,
yeah,
and that's our whole fight, to
mm,
have to seek um, what corrodes us, in order for us to function to the best of the abilities that we can and still leave this gap for things that we still don't know um, what works to a degree.
mm,
Um, but I think why I kept repeating chief of moral judgment, because I was trying to figure out what is responsible, and I think it is a large part of our makeup that helps us govern the decisions we make, and
instance.
yeah, this power struggle that we have in us
Mm,
every single day to
correct,
master or to control, or sometimes,
mm,
depending on the situation, let take reign. And
correct.
it reminds me of a piece I need to drop about ego, and I was on this whole thing of like, wow, it's crazy stuff. But different circumstances bring out different versions of you. Um,
No doubt.
and
No doubt.
that adds to the multitude of who we are as human beings having an experience. So the collision I can only see as um, it's the two. I see sex as the root, even that it even is that in the chakra system.
Yeah.
Everything starts at the root, and power is a more intellectual side of raw intellectual side of nature, because i.e. I can picture a gorilla knowing that he's the leader of a pact. There are clips where they are very, very humorous and playful.
Yeah.
That also shows that they have a lot of leverage to express themselves. So,
Mm.
um, because of the ability and capability that man is able to exercise rule depending on the position that they are in, whether it's close proximity with friends and family, to business, politics,
Yeah.
it starts to grow in how much of a domino effect that their um, actions play. So when and it's a very double-edged sword, because when a politician acts out of lust, they are
Yeah.
like, how dare you um show interest in a member of the party who you find attractive, and you being caught. It's like no other workplace. It's just a lot more responsibility for the effect on people's lives and livelihood for that. So sad, but it's if you take that mantle, you have to be prepared to have a lot of self-control to
Correct.
exercise yourself when making decisions and being yourself. And if you want to express, like it's always painted in different stories, um, you know, be a lot more protective of your privacy, because you're still human. Like no one cares what you do behind closed doors, and no one should. But
Yeah.
it's sad when it's used as leverage to say, "Hey, give me these rules and legislations, or otherwise I won't show people what you do behind."
Mm.
Yeah, but that's yeah.
I was just checking quickly just to kind of chain my thoughts together, make
Hmm.
sure I have a bit more some facts. But the limb, I just wanted to confirm it. But the limbic system plays a crucial role in controlling sexual behavior and anger. Right.
In the
So
nervous system,
essentially, sorry,
limbic nervous
the
system.
limbic system.
Limbic.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is basically kind of like the animalistic part of our brain.
Ah, okay.
So essentially, what this means to me is, um, when people are fighting themselves, they're fighting this part, and when they lose control, it's usually this part that takes over. Um, so let me just take you down a rabbit hole, and this is something that I'm sure you love to follow. Instead of sex, let's go anger instead, and obviously that's more of a man choice of poison. But if you think about the Hulk, what he goes through is a power situation, isn't it? Which is next to sex. If you flip it, it's anger. Or that's another facet of it. But if you think about it, the stronger he gets, right?
Mm.
What does he lose? He loses faculties. He can't control himself. Yes, he gets stronger, but he becomes more savage. He loses self-control. which is the reason why you don't necessarily look to go stronger. Do you get what I mean? And so it makes you think, because obviously, and I'm just really trying to focus, make the limbic system the focal point of this, because it seems to me this part of the brain, when it takes over, which is perhaps that's the clash, and that's the clash that we're sort of alluding to
Mm.
when sex and power clashes. That instinct um, causes this part to sort of kind of take over. We lose our faculties, we lose self control, we lose the ability to think rationally and make like sound decisions.
Yeah.
And that's when destruction happens. That's when we're chaos driven, anarchy, you know? There's so many things that comes into this. So that's what I see. Yes, we're speaking about, you know, basic instincts, yes, to do with um, power, sex, and more so love. But at the same time, there's a connection here between the tangible and the intangible, the physical and the psychological, somewhat. That when they collide in a way that it potentially can be destructive. And I would argue a lot of people are not really aware how, or perhaps what's going on, and how these things can be somewhat destructive. You mentioned something as well. Yes, women don't have well, men don't have armies, but women don't either. And you see a lot of times where certain men they get shot. They get shot. And I only say that to say that, yeah, they might not hold, but they might not have the power to display a physical dominance, but they do have the cunning to control somebody that does. And I think, but at the same time, what's the driving force beyond this whole intention, this intent, this destruction? Perhaps she's caught up in a limbic system fight as well. Perhaps this is a power play. Perhaps this is next to sex driven. Perhaps it's both. It's anger and sex.
Mm.
Perhaps she's caught up in a frenzy, with destructive tendencies just oozing from her pores. So, yes, love might be the most powerful, or sex might be the most powerful, but there's a lot of sublets. There's a lot of anger to go around with people. There's a lot of hate, envy, all these things to go around to make up for the lack of availability for sex and love. That can cause just as much damage, not only to the human psyche, but also to the human itself, the physical, and the surrounding. Because, a lot of times it's not just the victim, it's It's the relation to the victim. It's also the radius. I guess you could say perhaps like a destructive radius. We talk about shrapnels and stuff like that. Like my guy had in his heart, Iron Man.
Hmm.
A ticking time bomb goes off.
It's 20 hours.
It's not just going to kill the intended victim. It's probably going to, damage a lot of people within that radius as well. But here's the question now, Strings.
Yeah.
What's the answer? What's the preventative measures to preclude something like this happening and prevent it?
For most, on average, what I'm doing now, my brain is just going through the different kinds of people when they face um, these surges of
Yeah.
emotions. But there's a level of responsibility that I feel a human being has to coexist with one another, no
Mm,
matter what it is that you like or you don't like. That is an unspoken universal rule. And in order to do that, to coexist better, one must be responsible about how to control their emotions. I think that's first.
yeah.
Um, and it's very unfortunate how that isn't taught in schools.
Mm,
Yeah, everything
yeah.
starts at home for sure, but um, we spend more of our lives in institutions than we do in our own homes.
Whew,
And the
that's
fact
a
that
hard
they
one.
don't,
That's a whole fact.
brother, and the fact that they don't, they skim past it. They really skim past it. Um, but if one has, if one is able to feel more than the other person, i.e., short fuse,
Yeah.
um, they are quickly sanctioned and not given basic tools to um, go beyond and just saying, "Oh, you'll go to prison," depending on what age you are, if you continue to act like this.
Mm,
Because what they do by not telling um, a child or an adolescent individual is the quality of life beyond just being imprisoned they will have. One is if they one will never be able to have a family or settle down with someone, or they'll never be able to have a career or have
mm,
friends. These things I feel are also part of the brain that we yearn for.
yeah.
Because no man can live individually for until from them born to them dead. Not possible.
No.
And an instinct will crave companionship, friendship. But if one isn't taught how to control their emotions, to not shut them away, but to learn how to process them when they come up,
Yeah.
um, what, how much better a progression would they make? It's like in school how they only focus on the bad kids and ignore the good because they just know what to do until you're in a classroom and you look at the kids who are quiet, who need just as much as attention as
Yeah.
those who are s- begging for attention, and they've been trained or they've trained themselves to do that by saying, if I act like this, I'll get their attention.
Mm. But isn't that in itself a power play?
Yeah, definitely. And that's what gives human beings um, the twist. I don't want to say edge, but the twist
Mm.
in how we um, express ourselves because animals communicate, but because we think they're not speaking English, they they're like, oh, so I'm like, what? Like that has nothing to do with opening your mouth and hearing words.
Yeah,
But they also have disputes as well, funny enough. But they know not to go against the rule, because it all comes back to the quality of life that they will have. If you want to be an outcast, you're not gonna last long, mate. So
right.
yeah,
Animals
that's why I'd suggest. Oh, you frozen.
this day and age. Sorry.
Mm. No, your image froze for a sec. Back to
Oh,
it's all good.
um, in this day and age, we don't necessarily, it's against, it's unconstitutional to kill people these days or send them to the executioner as they used to do back in the days. But even then, people still went to the executioner anyway.
I wonder
So
what itch that scratched. Bro, I'm telling you.
yeah, exactly. But it's the same thing. But I think that's something that's still a reality in animals' life, especially if you think about some of the most dominant ones, like the lions, who are some of the most social creatures in the animal kingdom, and they hunt. Not necessarily, I wouldn't call them wolves, but they hunt as one. You know. But yes, seeing as I did mention wolves, they hunt as one as well. Um, but at the same time, you're talking about, you mentioned the rules, and it's just, they're very iron clan. They're very iron. There is no muddying or blurring the lines. You do this, you either get outcast or you get killed. Like it's just
Hmm.
that simple. Um, and that's usually what happens. And you think about the young, once they get to a certain age, like young males, they have to be, eventually they get outcast. So it just, there's constant power plays. If you think about this, life is a constant power play,
Yeah.
and it just pays to understand rules and regulations. In essence, I guess what I'm saying is, um, because you went micro, I go macro. You have to have a code. You have to live by a code. As an individual, I'd say that's the way to go. Um, but on a larger scale, still linked to being an individual, you have to know yourself. And I think that's the only way to understand, one of these. I think we already know what the biggest one is, but also there are sublets, as I mentioned, when you come to talk about the envy, the anger, all these different type of things that could cause just as much destruction if the emotion, as you mentioned, is potent enough. Because as we know, if it's potent enough, it's going to cause a clash, as we mentioned. And what follows from a clash is destruction, and or the intent to cause it, to cause destruction. And I think the only way to handle things is, well, are preventative measures, because I think in the crux of it, most people resolve, they don't have a resolve because they never have a plan in the first place.
Right.
And as we know, as Mike Tyson said, most people have a plan until they get punched in the face. So that's not even an option. The best measure, the best preventative measure is to prevent before having to find a cure. So I would say if you know, if you can predict the situation, unfortunately, strings, I have to put it back to this where, like, if you can anticipate, you don't have to improvise, you know? So essentially, you can find a way to curtail your inhibitions from, because these are life destructive factors. Or at least the results of them can be destructive to your life. And, especially for men, you can work a lifetime to
Mm.
create a reputation, but it only
Yeah.
takes a day, an hour to destroy it. So, man, you have to think
Wild,
about
man.
these things, man, because and so ultimately, that's where I came to the conclusion. You have to have a code, and you have to live by it. That's the only way, because things can take its toll, and sometimes, as to put it blunt, like Scarface said, "All I have is my balls and my word." You know,
Mm.
what else do you have in this world that means something? Because once that's out the window, um,
You fall for anything.
you fall for anything. And it's kind of like I see it somewhat like quitting. They say if you're willing to quit once, you're more likely to quit again. So if you're willing to let yourself be drawn into the nonsense or drawn into these destructive desires, then these things can lead. These things can always come calling, knocking at your door, and you're always going to be a footstep away or an inch away from pulling the door open and letting them in to sit on your sofa and dirty up your couch like Rick James. Rick James did that. I couldn't help it. I had to talk the one.
Oh, that image is funny.
Oh my god, I was like, you know what I mean? You could buy another one, you rich mother. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
this is where we are, man. And but essentially it all starts back at this one place. Sex and power. Two of the ultimate instincts that we have as human beings. And it's not perhaps spoken about enough or curtailed um, by learning about yourself, especially in the place that we should be learning about things in institutions, which is unfortunate. Strings, anything you have to say before we wrap things up or get ready?
Do your best. Because it's not easy. Because I will add, what if they were already in your house like Rick James already? And now that is where I'm starting to see things. How do you get them out?
Mm,
Because they don't ask. This ain't, um, yeah, they don't knock. They're already there.
it's a whole fact.
Hmm. And
They're
they
already
don't
there.
listen to please leave. You're like, what? Do you know what I am?
Mhm. Yeah. Ultimately, destructive tendencies. That's what we're looking at. Destructive tendencies, intangibles, but they're always there. And we can't. Of course, to go even higher or further out.
Hmm.
Because if you're speaking about knowledge of self, then it only makes sense to have discipline. Because without discipline, all this, all these ideals, suggestions means nothing. Because ultimately, that means you're never going to implement them. And not just implement, but implement them when it matters. And I think that's the issue.
Mm.
People are not going to do it when it matters, or just do it anyway, not do it in general. I mean, we already know how many people are locked up. So there's a lot of people not really doing what they're supposed to do, unfortunately. But this is the world we live in, and it's the only one we have. So you might not necessarily be able to, it might not necessarily be able to force somebody to do it,
Mm.
but you can do it yourself. You can do it for yourself. And ultimately, that's just you controlling what you can control, and what you can't, you don't. You know, teach one, each one teach
Mm.
one, as they say. You know, yes, indeed. It's another one. Strings, thanks for coming through, man.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. And thanks for everyone for supporting the page, and I appreciate everybody that shares their thoughts. We've had um, some positive feedback recently. Just people just kind of interacting with our lives and what we're doing, and some interesting talks. I'm not sure if you've seen some of the streams, but people have wrote some stuff on the videos.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, have a
Well,
look, man.
grateful.
Yeah, but yeah, we want more of that, and in time,
Yeah.
we will start to perhaps bear that in mind with some of the topics that we touch on, and perhaps interact more with people and just maybe touch on some of the questions that they might ask in the live. But ultimately, the idea is to build a community. Um, we might be the main two speaking, but in time, if things grow, we will give people a chance to speak as well. But we're just gonna, one step at a time. But definitely thank everybody for their support and for interacting. And keep checking out the page. We're growing, we're building, and I appreciate you. Thanks so much, everyone. I'm the Mad Poet, Mr. Strings.
Yes, sir.
All right, take care. Till next time.
Hi, everyone.